All right, so as you guys know, Week 15 was a crazy one. The craziest game of them all was the Raiders-Patriots game, which was really a snooze fest throughout most of the game. Look, I'm an honest man. I'm a betting man, but I'm also an honest man. And we took the over in the Raiders-Patriots game, and it was really a snooze fest for most of the game. It was low scoring. It looked like the over wasn't going to hit. There was always a small chance in the back of my mind that maybe it was going to pick up in the second half, but it was a snooze fest for most of the game. There wasn't a lot of action. Carr wasn't finding guys. Carr was pulling off his best Carson Wentz impersonation, and he was just throwing it up randomly. There was a pick six to start the second half with Carr. Mac Jones looked horrible as he has all season long. It was just a nasty game. And even the Keenan Cole catch in the end zone, to me, that was clearly out of bounds. I didn't celebrate when he caught the ball. I thought it was clear as day that it was out of bounds. I think what's tripping people out is the shoe has black on it, but the toe is white, and the toe that's white is out of bounds on the white chalk. So that's out of bounds to me, clear as day. But I wasn't celebrating when he caught that, but they ended up confirming that it was a touchdown. We got the over on that. I was happy with that. The game should have went into overtime, of course. As you guys know, the play to end the game was just ridiculous. You got Ramondre Stevenson. He's one of the hardest running backs to take down. He's big. I mean, that guy, he's got to be at least 230, 240, I would guess. I mean, he's huge and he's very fast. It's hard to take him down. He makes a big play earlier in the game. He went ahead and got a touchdown for them. But he makes a big play. He's in the open field, and all of a sudden he's just tossing it off to Jacoby Myers. And Jacoby Myers catches that ball and does the most idiotic thing ever with it, slinging it backwards to his quarterback. I don't know what he thought Mac Jones was going to do with that. It's sad to see because Jacoby Myers is kind of known as one of those guys on the Patriots who's like all about the team, and he's one of those smarter role players on the team and a guy who's really built himself up from being a guy who played quarterback and had to transition to wide receiver to being like a pretty good wide receiver. At times, their best wide receiver, their most reliable guy. So it's just unfortunate to see for him. He handled it like a man in the press conference, took it all on the chin. But it's just such a weird play call, and it makes you wonder what's going on with this Patriots team. They're clearly dysfunctional. Mac Jones and Matt Patricia, it just hasn't worked out on the offensive side of the football. And when you look at who's to blame for this, I'm the biggest Bill Belichick fan when it comes to football, but it has to be a Bill Belichick thing because Bill Belichick is the one bringing these players in. Hunter Henry was having better days when he was playing for the Chargers. Kendrick Bourne was having better days when he played for the Niners. Mac Jones was playing better with Josh McDaniels. Yeah, you could just go down the list. Nelson Aguilar played better with the Eagles and with the Raiders than he has in New England. So the thing that all these guys have in common is once they're with the Patriots, especially without Josh McDaniels, they've been struggling. And with Bill Belichick being the one that picks these players and being the one that decided that Matt Patricia was going to call plays on the offensive side, it's just been a mess. Matt Patricia and Mac Jones, they've been butting heads all season. Mac has been showing him up at all points of the game. He's always showing him up. It's kind of hilarious watching Mac Jones throughout the course of the game when they pan to him and he's just really going in on Matt Patricia. Matt Patricia just standing there taking it, and the play calls are just horrible. Even the Arizona coach, I think it was the wide receiver coach. He went out and said, or was it the offensive coordinator went out and said, yeah, the Patriots call plays like they have a defensive coordinator calling offensive plays. So it's just been a problem for them all season. I have to put it on Belichick because either the plays aren't working or the guys aren't buying into the plays, maybe because you have a defensive guy calling plays. And I wasn't one of these guys who in the offseason was saying, oh, Matt Patricia calling plays is going to be a disaster. I was more like maybe Belichick knows what he's doing. Belichick is a smart guy. The offense will be conservative. But it's just been a mess. And at some point, you got to be honest with yourself and say whose fault it is. And two things can be true. You can say Belichick has won Super Bowls. Belichick has been amazing, but this is also a problem that Belichick has created. And next season, he's going to have to right his wrong because this season is pretty much a disaster. Even if this Patriots team, they're hosting the Bengals, that's going to be a tough game. Then they host the Dolphins, that's going to be a tough game. And then you have to go at Buffalo. Maybe Buffalo won't need the game. Maybe Buffalo's playing backups and you can steal that one. But, you know, this Patriots team at 7-7 now, they're looking at what, a 9-8 season at best. I don't really see them winning out. So if you have the Patriots going 9-8 and then getting bounced in the first round, that's not really nothing to ride home about. And they're going to have to figure this out because you're asking your defense to do too much when it feels like their defense scores more than their offense does at this point. And just the disaster that they have on special teams. We took the Patriots against the Vikings on Thanksgiving, and the special teams just blew that game for us. It's just been a mess. But I got this ESPN First Take video up. They're going to talk about the game. Let's see what they have to say.
Is Jacoby Myers solely to blame for that brutal blunder?
Yeah, and Jacoby, I thought, handled it incredibly well after the game. He totally put everything on his shoulders and was very clear, like, no, I was never directed to do anything like that. I was strictly trying to make a play, and I appreciate that out of him. I think he's a phenomenal player. It is odd that this happened. We've always correlated the complete opposite with New England. Man, they're ready for every situation. They know the rule book so incredibly well. They're usually the team that, I mean, if you remember, they were the team that against Miami, I want to say like 5 years ago, Miami lateraled a ton at the end of the game, ran by Gronk, but Miami was down in that game. Like that's...
Yeah, it's just surprising to see this happen with a Patriots team, but if you pay attention, like I said with that Vikings game, the penalties that the Patriots had in that game and how the special teams let the Vikings get a touchdown on that return. The Patriots all season, they've been a top 5, top 10. I think they're sitting at 11 right now. They've been a top 5, top 10 team throughout the course of the year in penalties. Like each week they're always committing so many penalties, and it's always dumb penalties, and it's always penalties that are setting the team back in a major way. This team just has not had the same discipline that previous Patriot teams have had. And I don't really know if I would call it a personnel thing. I think at its core, it's Belichick doing what he normally doesn't do, where he was really aggressive in free agency, and it would look like he was just trying to grab talent, opposed to grabbing guys that fit with the New England way. And it's also Belichick having a bunch of guys who aren't necessarily bought into what he's doing and what they're trying to accomplish over there in New England. They don't like the style that New England is working in. I mean, even Jacoby Myers came out earlier in the season and said, like, I don't really understand what we're trying to do over here this season. It's kind of confusing. That's just not something you would normally hear from a Patriots player during the season. Like a current Patriots player during the season saying something like that is kind of revealing in a lot of ways. And one thing about Belichick is the reason why Belichick always had an edge on other teams and other coaches is because the first thing Belichick would do before talent, before how good a guy's metrics are or anything like that, the number one thing that Belichick would get accomplished, Belichick would make sure that every guy who was in the locker room wanted to be there. He would make sure you wanted to be there. He would make sure you cared about it. He would make sure that you were 100% bought in and that you just wanted it more. And he already had an advantage over every other team and every other coach because he had a whole locker room of guys that just wanted it. And you can't underestimate that because Belichick already had an edge when he had guys that were buying into the system. Now when you just go into free agency and you're just grabbing a Nelson Aguilar just because, or you're grabbing a Hunter Henry just because, or a Jonnu Smith just because, and they don't really know anything about the Patriots way, you're just trying to plug them in, you got to make sure that they buy into the system, because if they don't buy into the system, now you're losing the edge that you had to begin with. The edge that you had was that we're New England and we do it this way, and everybody here knows that it's done this way. So we're going to get the advantage on penalties. We're going to get the advantage on mistakes. But this year, the Patriots have made more mistakes than their opposition, simple and plain.
That's the difference. To be in that situation where it was a tie game and to call a draw on that play and then for the subsequent events to happen is so odd for New England. And yes, it forces my mind to think, man, if they had offensive coaches coaching their offense, do I think that would have happened? My answer is no. Now, do I blame Matt Patricia or Joe Judge for it happening? I don't, because Jacoby stood up there and took it by himself.
So what you're saying is essentially what I'm saying. It's, yeah, you can't blame Patricia and Joe Judge and Belichick for Jacoby Myers throwing that lateral. I mean, obviously, Jacoby Myers went out on a limb and did that himself. Nobody told him to do that. But overall, this occurred because of what happened earlier in the Patriots season by them not nipping this in the bud and figuring out the offense earlier in the year. It's just something that happened as a result of the mistakes that they made earlier in the season. So you have to point the blame at the coaching staff and ultimately Belichick for this happening, even though this situation in particular wasn't really Belichick's fault.
to have that happen, and for me to think, did they communicate like, hey, we are in this situation, we are never doing that.
Right.
Like, did they go over it in training camp or week 2 or 3
Did
of the
somebody
season?
say that in the huddle right before? Because you know how many times people say, listen, man, if we got it, we go. But if not, just get down. Let's go into overtime.
Yeah, if you're calling the draw in the huddle, you're sitting there going, hey, guys, listen, if you get close, try and make something happen. But other than that, protect the football. Value the football. We're not giving it away. Worst case scenario, we're going to go into overtime. So I think it is on Jacoby because of the things that he communicated. And I respect the heck out of him for standing there in the locker room and owning that.
Let me say this.
Yeah, kudos to Jacoby Myers for standing up there and taking it like a man, because they were going after him post game, and it is really hard to have a bunch of people telling you how you messed up, but he owned it like a man.
On behalf of the non-football playing public, those of us who have not been on the gridiron, who have not been on the field, Stevenson had a tremendous game. 172 yards rushing, averaging 9 yards a carry. He was sensational yesterday.
One of the most underrated running backs in the league.
Very foolish of him to lateral the ball.
Yeah.
Okay? When you look at Mac Jones, my God, could you at least fake like you're trying to tackle Chandler Jones in that particular instance? Grab his ankle, something. I mean, just embarrassing. You understand what I'm saying? I mean,
that was him trying.
Good Lord. No.
Scary.
No. I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, just that was bad. That was bad.
Yeah, Mac Jones has to put up a better effort than that trying to tackle Chandler Jones. He shouldn't have been able to get by that easy from him. You got to grab him by the ankles, hold his leg or something. I mean, Mac Jones was already low, but the mental fatigue that Mac Jones has suffered this year, just the frustration that he has. I know when that lateral throw came, when Jacoby passed that ball to him, he was thinking, what the fuck? And he wanted nothing to do with that play, and he just couldn't believe it. So I do feel for Mac a little bit in that situation.
I don't want to hear anything about coaching with this situation. Not this. There's no way in hell coaches had something to do with this. Jacoby Myers, not Jacoby and Myers, the law firm. Jacoby Myers. Okay, let's be clear. We appreciate the fact that he manned up, stood at the locker, answered the questions, accepted accountability. No doubt about that. Right? Mad love to him. I'm sure the future will be brighter. That might be the dumbest play we've seen in NFL history.
It might be.
And your name is written all over it. When we think about all-time bloopers, you can come up with anything you want. You come up with the butt fumble with Mark Sanchez.
Yeah.
You come up with a few things. You can't come up with something dumber than what we saw yesterday. First of all, when it was lateral to you, you ran backwards. Then after you ran backwards, you threw the ball about 15 yards backwards even more. Okay? Thirdly, you were targeting Mac Jones when you threw the football.
Yeah, that's the worst part about it to me is why are you throwing the ball to your quarterback? What did you think Mac Jones was going to do with that? Catch the ball and juke some guys and make a play? I mean, if you lateral it to Mac Jones was the last guy. You know, he was the guy that was furthest back out of any Patriot. So when you lateral it to Mac Jones, who's he going to throw the ball to? I mean, he has nobody he can lateral it to. He's just going to run forward and get tackled. Like, that was the dumbest part about it all to me is throwing a lateral pass to your quarterback, expecting him to do something. It's not like Mac Jones is Jalen Hurts or Justin Fields or something.
Where was he running to?
He panicked.
Where was he running to? Okay,
Yeah, the man panicked, right? He was trying to make something happen.
We've seen stuff in Iceland. We've seen somebody run out of bed. We've seen people run out of bed. We've seen people. We've seen the butt fumble. No, these are things. These are mistakes. These are mistakes.
But we're supposed to be on the same team Monday morning.
I didn't say it. Did I say any names?
You literally did.
I did not say any names.
I'm making fun of Dan Orlovsky for when he ran out of bounds and got that safety in his own end zone.
I'm trying to make these. All I'm trying to say is
he can never run away from that play. I remember Jimmy G in it was week 3 at Broncos. Jimmy G did the same thing, and they were showing highlights of Dan Orlovsky on Sunday Night Football doing the same thing.
the mistakes happen.
I mean, man, maybe I will be a Cowboy guy.
nasty,
shot
but
that
that's
in
what
there
I'm
on his
saying.
feet. He shot that in there on his feet.
Mistakes happen. What we haven't seen is something that dumb.
Yeah.
Now, there's no way around it. There's no way around it. It will go. Listen, it was so bad. The announcer for the Patriots said, "This might be the dumbest NFL team we've ever seen." You know what I'm saying? The announcer for the Patriots.
Say that.
He said it.
What about a Bill Belichick team?
Yes.
That right there is the rub.
It's
That
like,
right there is the rub.
it's showing you because.
No, yeah. I mean, we've been betting Patriots this season. I know a lot of people have been betting Patriots this season, and sometimes they pull these games out. But a lot of times you're just left scratching your head, and you're like, this is not the reason why I bet the Patriots. You're betting the Patriots thinking that they're going to be the smarter team, that they're going to play better football, that they're going to capitalize on the other team's mistakes. And then you find yourself watching a game where the other team is doing that to the Patriots, and you're like, well, if the Patriots don't have this edge on teams, then why would I bet the Patriots? And it's the reason why I've started to stay away from Patriots games the past few weeks, because it's like there's no edge. If the Patriots aren't getting that advantage on teams, there's just no edge.
We know what Bill Belichick knows.
When you look at Mac Jones and you look at their weapons on the offensive side, it's like, this team is not like, yeah, they have an O-line, they have a run game, but like Mac Jones at quarterback and the weapons that they have out on the perimeter, this team is not good enough, especially with their play calling. It's not good enough to really do too much. You know, they're not dynamic on the offensive side of the football, so they're left having to rely on like pick sixes, which they got a pick six on Carr earlier in the game in the third quarter. You know, but besides things like that, I think the Patriots are number one in defensive scores. Like, I think their defense has scored the most points this season. If I'm not mistaken, they're definitely top three. They find themselves like having to rely on other ways to score. Of course, they got the special teams touchdown against the Jets. Like, this team just doesn't have a lot of talent. And when you don't have a lot of talent, you better have that edge that the Patriots used to have, and they just don't have it anymore. They're not, when they go on the field against another team, you can't just default say that the Patriots are the smarter team. That's just not the case anymore.
Right. Now, we can lament Matt Patricia and Joe Judge being coaches on the offensive side of the ball. We can lament the absence of a true offensive mind, a la Josh McDaniels caliber person replacing Josh McDaniels. We can lament all of that. But what we're not going to do today is accuse Bill Belichick of having something to do with that.
No,
Not
Stephen A.,
that.
before you
Not
go,
that.
Maker,
No, we do have to accuse Bill Belichick of doing something, having something to do with that, because at the end of the day, Belichick could have nipped this in a bud by having an offensive guy to begin with. If he has an offensive guy to begin with, you build better habits, you have better team chemistry, the guys probably buy in more, and then you avoid random situations like this occurring during the season. But when you don't take care of business early, it leaves room for just the most wackiest things to occur on that side of the football, and we saw it happen in the game last Sunday. So Bill Belichick, as the guy who's picking the players, as the guy that's picking who coaches what, Bill Belichick does have to take accountability for this. And I'm big on Bill Belichick. Like, during the Patriots dynasty, I was the one that said, hey, everybody was saying, look, it's all Belichick, it's all Belichick, it's all Belichick. I was saying, look, I think the quarterback has something to do with this. I think how consistent Tom Brady has been, how poised he is when it matters most, I think he has something to do with this. That's why when Brady went to the Buccaneers, I had the Buccaneers to make it to the Super Bowl. And the game that the Bucs had against the Chiefs, it's still my biggest bet to this day. It's still the most money I've made on a bet to this day. Taking the Bucs plus 3.5 in that Super Bowl game, taking the under as well. But once Brady won that Super Bowl, the media and everybody around football just flipped it. And they all were just like, oh, Tom Brady's the one. Tom Brady's the one. Belichick was just lucky to have Tom Brady. And then me as the guy who was, riding with Brady, I had to be like, yo, slow your horses. This was a 50-50 partnership. Belichick won them Super Bowls with defense, and Brady won some Super Bowls in shootouts. So, it was a 50-50 partnership, and now it feels like the media and everybody around football is trying to, like, discredit Belichick. But the Patriots, even after this horrible loss, they have a better record than the Tampa Bay Bucks do with Tom Brady, and that Bucks team has more talent than this Patriots team. So Brady and Belichick clearly needed each other. It was clearly a 50-50 partnership. And it's just weird to see people try to discredit Belichick in a lot of ways. And I'm not trying to do that here. But I do think this is a situation where you do have to point the finger at Belichick and say, hey, look, if you had handled things a little bit differently, this situation in particular wouldn't have occurred.
I'm not sitting here saying I blame the coaches, but my natural reaction is to question if they had offensive coaches in that situation. Do I think that would have happened? That's just my natural reaction to the whole situation, because they usually are such a well-coached
and I got a lot of friends. I got a lot of friends throughout the country, but I got somebody that texts me here. See, this is the kind of stuff that annoys me. Let me give you an example of the kind of stuff that annoys me.
Someone bloviated.
Somebody, good morning, bro. The ref blew the touchdown call in the Raiders game to tie it up. Jacoby screwed up, but the ref messed up. That ain't the point. See, we divert. We evade. We divert.
That was not a touchdown. Like I said, guys, I have the over. I'm a betting man, but I'm also an honest man. I had the over in that game. That Keenan Cole catch was not a touchdown. He was out of bounds. I'm going to keep saying that. He was out of bounds. Patriots shouldn't have even been in that situation to begin with. But, hey, you find yourself in a tie game with a few seconds left, less than a minute left on the clock. They didn't have to play it out the way that they did. Why not isolate a wide receiver, whoever you trust the most? Why not isolate a wide receiver on one side of the football and have Mac Jones give him a chance to go up and get it, or to come back on a comeback, to do a comeback route or something, and catch the ball and get out of bounds with a chance to maybe kick a field goal for the win? Why not do that? The whole idea of we're going to do a HB draw, your HB draw is not going to get you down the field enough to get into field goal range, at least not fast enough for you to actually get in the field, to kick a field goal after that. The idea to go HB draw there was kind of confusing, but once you go HB draw, it is what it is. You just can't lateral it. So, some of this goes on Stevenson, some of this goes on the referees for calling the Keenan Cole a catch. It was a weird game. Ultimately, the Raiders are going to be going after Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers in the offseason, somebody to pair with Josh McDaniels. Carr is clearly out of there. I could tell Thursday Night Football when Josh McDaniels wasn't even letting Carr throw the football. I could tell that he didn't really trust Carr. He was trying to play it conservative and try to see if he could win a game despite his quarterback instead of trying to win a game with his quarterback. So Derek Carr will be out of there is what I'm guessing. And the Patriots will have to make some moves or some changes in the offseason to assure that this isn't a situation that occurs ever again.
That's not the point. The point is that's somebody saying we're not debating why they lost the game. We're debating the flagrant, alarming stupidity of the play, the absence of intellect.
But yeah, that's about it on that, guys. These are two teams that aren't really doing much this season. At best, one of them can sneak into the 7th seed. But like I said, they're going to have some interesting off seasons, and we'll just see how these teams close it out. So thanks for watching.